Hello, and welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for choosing to watch my channel and join me as I explore the wide world of pens, inks, occasional paper, and occasional other accessories that supplement, complement, and enhance our fountain pen experiences. Yes, there are 12 bottles of ink that I just received today. It was an Aliexpress order. It actually took a little bit over 3 weeks to arrive, which is the fastest ink has ever been delivered from China. Ink, being a liquid, is shipped a little bit differently than a pen would be shipped, but I was quite happy. Here's the listing on Aliexpress, and we're going to look at each of the 12 bottles that were available. As we peruse this listing, you'll see as you click on the different colors, it shows you a little bit of a swatch. And I just figured all 12 would be worth buying. If there had been more of them available, I would have bought all of them because shipping is spread out over it. So it cost me, delivered, about $3.25 a bottle for an 18 milliliter bottle of ink, which I think is a great deal. And these are all sparkly inks, which I do enjoy, and I use them in a number of different pens. And my experiences with sparkling inks has always been pretty good. Yes, occasionally you have to clean them slightly more often than you would maybe another type of ink, but I enjoy the dimension that the little bit of glitter gives you, and I found that these Chinese inks have just the right amount of glitter. Not over the top, but just enough to add some character, and unless you look at the writing under a certain angle, you don't see the glitter. So let's look at these inks a little bit more closely, and maybe some of them would be interesting to you. When I've gotten inks before from China, they were extremely well packed in a lot of very substantial bubble wrap and everything else. These just came in your classic plastic envelope, and they were just wrapped in a little bit of foam, and you can see these 4 bottles are wrapped a little bit differently, and I don't know why. As we open them up, we'll explore, and maybe there might be a reason, but I just think they happen to have them wrapped like that, so they went up and ended up in the package. And as you can see, this is shipped from Springfield Gardens, New York, which is part of the JFK, I'm assuming. And it was sent to me, and the U.S. Post Office did the final delivery. And I think that lends itself to being a quick delivery, and I think it's something Aliexpress has worked to develop a shipping system from China to the United States, which works extremely well, at least for me, similar to what eBay has done with Orange Connects. So I've now written with all the 12 inks. This is the paper towel that I use to clean off the top of the bottle sometimes, make certain that ink didn't get there and made the cap hard to unscrew. You can see a lot of glitter there that comes through in this type of use. And here's the pen I use to do all the writing samples with, which we'll look at in a bit. And that glass nib works very, very well. In order to keep track of these inks, I put a number which corresponds to the number in the Aliexpress listing on the top. And if we take a look at one of the bottles, we'll say I also put the number on the front of the bottle because I'm not going to remember the Chinese name. And I've done some translations, and they don't make a lot of sense to me for most of them. There's a fair amount of glitter in this one, and with all of them, it goes into suspension fairly easily. There's a label associated with all of them, and there you can see the number 1, and a barcode, and maybe some other identifying numbers. If we look at the top of the lid, we'll see what could be a bottling date, manufacturing date, December of 2021. So they're relatively new. And they all have a saying on the side of the bottle, which I translated a few of them, and again, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And there's another barcode. So consistent packaging, and it's gold powder, and it's 18 milliliters. So you get all the information that you kind of need. And the ones that were in the foam the label was on the foam and not on the bottle. So number 4 came in this foam overlay wrapped in cellophane tape. The other thing I did was I filled this pen, which if you watch my channel you saw my review of this Parker IM, and I put in an ink that worked very, very well, which was number 11, this one here, which is kind of like a very dark gray, almost black. And I wanted to do a water test, and I write on regular copy paper. There's bleed through, show through, what you would kind of expect. These are all fairly saturated inks, fairly well lubricated inks. I really enjoy the way that they write and the way that they feel in the pen. So back up a little bit, get a little bit of my desk in there. Yep, 12 bottles of ink. Let's take a look at how they look on paper. So I use this notebook, which has Tomoe River paper on it, because it's going to show off shading and ink color, I think, a lot cleaner. The paper's not involved too much because you don't get much of the ink absorbed into the paper, so you get to see more of the pure ink. And as you can see, with a straight-on angle, you really don't notice the glitter. But if you come in at an angle, you can see the glitter in the ink. And I like that feature. The number 1 is a nice yellow ink, but it dries into a brown color. Interesting. Number 2, I would call it definitely a pink ink. Number 3 is a really nice, intense blue. Number 4 is more in the purple category, but as you can see, that glass nib laid down a pretty dark color. Number 5 is a light, interesting green. Very nice. I don't have any color that's like that. Number 6 is a darker green. Number 7 is a little bit of a darker blue. Number 8 looks like it's in that gray family. Number 10 is a darker pink. Number 11 is the ink that I have in a pen right now, and it's like you can say it's a dark gray, almost in a black color. Number 12 is the third in the pink category. And number 15 is a lighter version of purple. And again, all these colors I just like. Number 11 is very, very saturated. I'd say half of these are very saturated, like 15, 10, 7, 6, 4, and 3. And then 1 and 2 are a little bit lighter, a little bit more fluidy. Number 5 it looks like the least amount of color, but when you lay down a lot of it, it still looks nice. And that smear is just an indication of showing you how the ink looks as it smears across the paper. So all in all, I'm really glad I was able to snag these inks, got them delivered fairly quickly. And now I have 12 new inks to put into pens and enjoy. So what ink to put in it? So I recently got 12 bottles of ink from China. This is number 11. The chromatography shows it to just be a very dark ink. Some dark blues, purples, dark browns, and you can see a little bit of glitter there. It deposited when I first laid the ink down. Kind of reminds me of White House Burning 1812. As we put the Trommel number 11 into water, you'll see a little bit of ink come off the paper, but not much, which is what we expected when we looked at the chromatography. We're going to let it set for a little bit longer and show you what it looks like after a few more minutes. Well, now it's been in there for about 10 minutes, and I think it's holding up very, very well. It almost looks like a little bit of a purple thing there going on, but we saw a little bit of purple in the chromatography. As you can see, it's very readable. Certainly, one could easily use this in a situation where you needed water resistance. I'm impressed. Not something I expected from the ink. So I had the number 11 ink in this pen, and I showed you the writing sample I did for the review. Here it is. So now I've replaced it with number 3, the nice blue ink. And this has that push-pull converter, which I kind of was a little bit negative on, but one of the things I'll say is it made cleaning out this pen really easy, much easier than using a screw converter, up and down very, very quickly. And a few flushes really got rid of that number 11 ink, so easy to clean out, at least based on that ink. So let's see how the nib with that number 3 ink looks compared to the number 11. I like it. It works great. I love the color. The number 3 is not quite as wet, doesn't get down as thick a line as the number 11 did. So there is some variations in the ink as far as their flow characteristics go, but they're all good. It's just slight differences. So if you wanted a drier ink, number 3 is a drier ink than number 11. Hopefully you can see that. And let's see if we can pick up some glitter. It's hard to see in the camera, but we'll take a look at it and see how it came through on the film. So here's the chromatography I did on the number 3 ink, and it's definitely a very clean blue color. Just a little bit of sparkle there at the bottom when I laid down the line, but the water certainly pushed that ink up quite easily. So we'll do a water test, and I don't expect to see much, if any, water resistance on this Trommel ink. Let's see. So let's do the water test with the number 3 ink. This was written on copy paper, and just a little bit of bleed through and some show through. And the glitter works well on this copy paper. I'm impressed. So based on the chromatography, we have some expectations for how this is going to survive the water test. It's spreading a little bit, but it's certainly surviving more than I expected. We're going to let it sit there for about 5 minutes and then take it out. Well, it's been almost 5 minutes. As you can see, the ink is leaving the paper. We're going to leave it go for a few more minutes and then pull it out. So let's extract our water test. And as we'll see, not much left. To compare it to the number 11, you'll see that that one did quite well. And as the chromatography suggested, very little water resistance in the number 3. This is the pad I use for the ink testing. It has Tomoe River paper in it, the original Tomoe River paper. So here's a sample I wrote with the Parker IM. And if we go up to the one I wrote with the glassed nib pen, you can see that that line is a little bit thicker and probably laid down a fair bit more ink than the Parker did, but it certainly is representative of what you would see with the ink in a pen. So now it's time to just sum up these inks. The first thing I'll say is I like all of them. There's certainly a lot of colors here that I do not have, and I do have a fairly large ink collection, but certain colors I've avoided, particularly pinks, and also yellows. I recently received a lemon sandwich cookie pen BBS pen, and that ink might go in it. Who knows? We'll see. But overall, I think the Chinese ink market is not one that many people partake in, many people enjoy, but I do think there's a lot of opportunities there to find some great inks. And they do like glitters, and they do like sheens. I've done earlier reviews. I'll put together an ink playlist, and I'll put a link in the description. So we've come to the end of this video. I hope it finds all of you safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, your inks, writing as much as you can and want to. I think that's the whole purpose of having fountain pens. They're also great to look at. And it's also great that you can explore this phenomenal world of ink to put it into your pen and put those thoughts on paper in such a nice color. This is the end. We will say bye. See you soon.